Hey, fifth grade. For today's writing workshop lesson, we're going to be bouncing back into that poem that we created a couple weeks ago. It was a free verse poem, and you picked your topic from your heart map. Then you created draft one. Then you revised. We're going to edit today. So, if you will remember, a while ago, we created a document in your work area. And then for the next step, when we revised, we actually went into our drive and we created a copy of that document. So that's what you're going to need to start out doing. You're going to go to your drive and you'll find that in your waffle. Okay. You'll find that in your waffle. And you named it Revision of D1. So type REVISION of, and mine is not coming up because I'm in my teacher view, but mine was Revision of D1, My Dog Albus. You can see that. I'm going to click on that. Now, this has changes that I made. If you remember back to that lesson, because we put it into suggesting mode. And I think I'm going to go back here and see if I can find a different one, because it doesn't have all my changes. There we go. So there it is. Now I'm going to make a copy of this. So I'm going to go to File, Make a Copy, and I'm going to rename this poem. I'm going to call it Edited D1, My Dog Albus. And then I'm going to say OK. And now, before I do anything else, I'm going to go back to the assignment and use the Add or Create button to attach that document. And this may not work because I've been switching back and forth between my teacher account and practice, but it will work when you guys do it. Okay, so nothing's coming up. So real quick, just for demonstration purposes, we're going to pretend that I attach this to the document, okay? I'm first going to go up here and I'm going to change this from editing to suggesting, just like we did before when we revised. Then I'm going to double click and I'm going to change the date to today's date. I'm going to change this so it says edited D1. And then I'm going to use the other document that is attached to this. So this editing check sheet. And I'm going to bounce back and forth between the editing check sheet and my document. So first I'm going to look for obvious stuff. And we have my sentence is perfect. This is a poster. This is referring to a poster that has hung in every classroom you've been in since you were in kindergarten. And it basically means that you're going to start every sentence with a capital letter and you're going to end every sentence with capitalization. You're going to make sure that you put spaces between the words. So it's just obvious stuff that you've always known that you were supposed to do, but maybe sometimes you don't do because you're used to texting and there are no rules there or whatever. So I'm going to go back into this document. I do want to point out, when you are writing free verse poetry, there are really no rules about sentences. So if you choose not to write in complete sentences, then you probably don't have to do a whole lot in this step. You can see that I did not write in complete sentences, but you can see down here in this last stanza, I still tried to punctuate it like it was a sentence. I don't like that. It doesn't fit with what I did previously in my poem. So I'm going to delete that period because it should be consistent. You can see that it popped up what I did there. That way we're keeping track of our changes. So I don't really have a whole lot. I'm good with how it has capitalized. I use punctuation where I was supposed to use punctuation in other parts of my poem. So I'm going to go back to my editing checklist and I'm going to put an X here because I just edited for obvious stuff. Now I'm going to focus on spelling. Highlight and look up every word I'm not 100% certain of. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my document. I'm going to get a highlighter and I'm going to use yellow. And you can see that I don't have any red squiggly lines, but that doesn't mean that every word is spelled correctly, because what Google does is it suggests what word we're trying to spell when we start struggling, when it senses a misspelled word. So sometimes you guys will click on, yeah, sure, Google, put that word in my document. When you go back through and you read it or you look at it, it may or may not be the appropriate word for that part of your poem. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to read my poem strictly for spelling. And if there are words I'm not certain of, then I am going to look them up. And I'm also going to ask myself if they make sense where they are. So I'm not certain if this should be one word or two words. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that using yellow. And I'm not sure if I spelled this one right. It's the name of the breed of my dog, so I'm going to highlight that. Now, once I go through my document and I see if there are any other words that I want to double check, I can go up here to Tools and run a spelling and grammar check. And it says, hey, your document looks good. So if I've read this to myself and these words seem to make sense where they're at, and spell check says they're correct, then I can go back to my editing check sheet and put an X here. The next thing I'm going to look at is my title. It says capitalize the first, last, and important words in the title. So I come back here. I have the first, last, and important words in my title capitalized. So I could go back and put an X there, but I also know that I didn't craft this title. So I want to take this opportunity to go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to add it, even though this isn't officially editing. It is part of the revision process or the polishing process, and we can do that during this time also. So I'm going to rename my poem, I solemnly swear I am up to no good. And I've got my capitalization the way I want it. So I'm going to go back here, put an X. And then the last thing I'm going to read my poem for is to make sure that if I use the word I as a word all by itself, that it is capitalized everywhere throughout my poem. So I have it here. Yes, it's capitalized. I have it here. Yes, it's capitalized. Yes, it's capitalized. So I'm going to scan every line looking for the word I. And if it's there, it has to be capitalized. If it's not, then I'm going to change it. Looks like I'm good. So I go back to my editing check sheet. I put an X. And then, guys, we can go back to the assignment. Remember, you're going to add or create it from your Google Drive. You're going to select the document that you just worked on. You're going to type in edited. And again, mine isn't going to show up because I created it in my teacher mode. My apologies. You're going to click on the document. You're going to insert it. and then you may hit the turn in button because you are done editing your document. And that is it. Let me know if you have any questions or if you need any help. I highly recommend that you rewatch this video several times, or if you keep it up in the background so you can jump back and forth to the video as you're following each of those steps in the editing process. I love and miss you guys. I cannot wait till you're back in the classroom. Hope to see you soon.